I was putting stuff in italics. I'm trying to help teach some of my 6th period kids to take abridged notes because they're like writing and typing everything. So anyways, not only did I put it in italics today, but I turned it blue. If you're colorblind, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to pick on my colorblind kids. Uh-oh.
Teachers and students, please mark this interruption for morning update. I want to say good morning to all of you at AHS. We're glad you're here this morning. Remind you that school safety is a top priority for April ISD and April High School. If you have any questions, please see one of our officers in the hallway or one of our administrators will be glad to assist you. We do ask that everyone please wear a mask that covers your mouth and your nose in our building. So if you're on campus, any place on our campus, any activities in our classroom hallway, we ask you please be sure to wear the mask all day, every day that covers your mouth, chin, and your nose. As well as students, please be sure you're wearing a visible ID to be on our campus. Just as a reminder that for your safety, health-free screening is required for every person before you enter the campus. April ISD and April High School will follow all Tarrant County public health guidelines as well as all CDC requirements. Again, we're glad you're here this morning. I hope all of you have a great Wednesday here at AHS.
Okay, let me, it is already Wednesday.
No, 2 weeks to Christmas.
Oh, actually, I'm
Now we're what, 3 weeks of working non-stop.
Ooh. That sounds like a kid. Ooh. What's that too? All right, so we did, let's see, the formation of sedimentary on Monday, and yesterday we did pipes. We brought in a couple new ones like shale. We talked about gypsum. Gypsum was a new type of chemical. Shale was a new type of plastic because it's layered primarily clay. It's like pressed down clay that makes shale. There were a couple things I kept saying, this is going to be on the test. You need to know that shale commonly has fossils. Coal was the bioplastic or the organic one from plant materials. You need to know that that's where it comes from. You need to know that the little symbol on that chart, that it's like the black box, the little, like that's how we represent your organic remains. That it's primarily made up of carbon. You needed to know that the 2 major types of limestone, one is completely crystallized, which is inorganic. The other type brings in shells, which is organic or bioplastic. It's the only one that I have come across. And I'm not going to research every stinking type of sedimentary rock, but it's the only one that I have come across that can be categorized in both. You need to know that too. Wednesday. So what we're going to talk about today is the different structures. And one of the most impressive types of sedimentary structures are stalactites and stalagmites, which are inside caves. Which one hangs? You know? You say G, well, the G or the C? C is from the ceiling, G is from the ground. That is how you keep them straight. Stalactites, what happens is you have the water that drips down very slowly, sometimes hundreds of years from the surface. And then as it makes its way down, it picks up different minerals. Okay? And as it comes down, it starts to drip. And it very slowly deposits just a little bit on every drip. And that's how they start to form from the ceiling. And then those drips, when they hit the ground, it deposits a little bit there, and then the drip will hit on that and deposit a little bit more. And that's how they grow up. And sometimes they meet and they make pillars. So with what I just said, what type of formation is it? Is it plastic? Is it rock from rock? Is it crystallized? Is it rock from non-rock? Or is it bioplastic, which is rock from life? Which one would they be? They're not plastic. They're not rock from rock.
The other one.
The other one. There's 2 other ones.
Well,
I mean, I said you've got water that's dripping down and it's depositing these different chemicals. So crystallized. I forgot to bring my photo album from when we went down into Carlsbad, but You have to wear a helmet. I mean, it's pitch black down there. You are way down underneath. You go like 20 floors down in an elevator. And then you rappel down, you go even deeper. It was so much fun. I cannot tell you how many times I whacked my head. Thank goodness for the helmets you have to wear on these things as you're walking around. If you're not paying attention or if you're falling through different tunnels. So it was, one of these years I will take my daughter there. It's been very interesting. I'm not going to take a field trip to like Arizona. Maybe it's New Mexico.
There's the caverns in San Antonio.
Yeah, but it's still a ways.
Can you do a field trip?
Do a field trip all the way to San Antonio. I don't think there's any that are closer.
We're just talking about one to Arizona.
Huh? Okay, so anyways, we have, these are the different things that we are going to talk about. Okay, and there are a few other structures that I'm going to bring in towards the end. But in general, they have some type of bedding. Okay, I'm not going to go back and do all of the vocab from the rock cycle, but in those notes, we talked about superposition and then original horizontality. That's the one, well, you have to have the deposition. So that's the superposition law, okay, so where it settles one on top of another. But the fact that they like to be horizontal, flat, side to side. It's the combination of the two when we are doing these sedimentary rocks. And we're going to do each one of these separately. Let me grab a copy of the notes so that I know I didn't miss anything. And I'm not going to go in depth with the fossils. We did that. I'm going to talk about a couple different types. Huh? We did. We had a whole thing. We had two things that we did about fossils. So in fact, I went and got my ammonite. I found big ones. These guys, they're the ancestors. This is an old one. This is an even older one. And this is a younger one. These are the ancestors to squid. Squid don't have shells anymore. So but that's what these look like. They had these almost tentacle-looking things that would come out, and that's how they would move themselves. But they needed to protect themselves with a hard shell. Squid don't have to do that. Squid are vicious. They're octopi, octopuses, octopi. And so we are going to have visible layers that are going to be lithified, turned to stone. The layers that, once again, they settle down from the law of superposition, where the older's normally at the bottom and the younger's normally at the top, because I'm not asking you to be overturning. And they are done so horizontally. Okay, so that's the principle of the law of original horizontality. Now, there are some weird things that happen where they're not completely straight. There's cross bedding, there's braided bedding. I have a lot of images that I'm going to put up here. If you want to look them up on the internet and implant them into your notes, you're more than welcome to. And it's only the front side on this one. I didn't put any extra images on here. It would have been a little bit longer. But once again, it's been, let's see, the rock cycle was, those notes were 2 weeks before the break. So literally 3 weeks ago, we did these. And you need to know these terms for the next test. I'm still in the process of building it. I already picked out the sedimentary questions that I like, and I'm working on the metamorphic ones that I like. I'm probably going to go back into the rock cycle and pick out a few of those that I like. And then once I have all the ones that I like, I pick and choose from there, create it into a Canvas quiz so that it tells me your grade. Because the other program that I'm pulling from, it doesn't talk to our grade books at all. Anybody's going to make this one? No. Oh, so this is the image that I had on here. It's not exactly what you guys have seen before, but were the older layers down on the bottom, and I can't read. Oh, it's just numbered, I think. I can't read it on there. I have to read it from over here. So it has number 1 at the bottom. And these different symbols, these patterns, they mean different things. And on the, if I scroll back, I go back up here. Oh, hold on. Where are you at? Here. So this particular thing that you had at the end of yesterday's notes, It's not every single type of stone and every single map symbol, but this is what they tend to look like. And like I said, this particular one for coal, for bioclastic, you need to know that one. I guarantee you it will be on your test. Let me go back to where I was. It was here. No, I was here. All right, next one. Graded bedding. You're going to have tapering off. It's, here's my picture. There we go. You're going to be thicker towards the bottom, okay? And because of a slope underneath, this is like a cross section. This is like cutting through the water and looking at it from the side. The sediment is going to be thicker at the bottom of the bowl, if you think of it that way. And as it comes towards the edges of the bowl, it wants to make as straight of a line as possible. But as it's hitting your slope or the inside of the bowl, it's going to taper off and be a little bit more pointed. This happens with what we call turbidity currents. You've got water moving, almost always water. It can be wind, but it's shown much, much, much better in a river or in a lake or in the ocean. That's where you're going to see this a little bit more pronounced. Your biggest particles, and we should have talked about like gold rush and sluices and mining gold and whatnot yesterday. I know I did in most of my classes. But your biggest things want to settle first because they're the most dense. So they're going to be at the bottom. And then your smaller particles will, as they're getting smaller and smaller and smaller, they move further and further and further, or they're closer to the top because they're less dense. So when you see a cross section of a rock that has developed from this, you see, they can't see what I'm drawing on the board, but I do have a picture of it coming up in a minute. This is the cross section of the rock. Just cut it off in a square. You're going to see the larger particles that are all cemented at the bottom. Blah, blah, blah. And then you're going to see smaller ones as you go up. So that way at the top, it just looks like little teeny tiny grains. And I know my drawing is horrible. I did not do good in art class. But you have the rocks that are being moved, transported through water. Whether it be in an ocean, in a river, the biggest things are going to settle first. They will be at the bottom, and then the smallest things will move further or settle later on, and they will be towards the top. I do have another picture. So what I was trying to draw on the board, so you can see the larger grains down here at the bottom, and they settle first. You have smaller mid-sized grains, and then you have the finest grains. Now, when they compact, they turn to rock, they cement, then you're still going to see the largest ones down at the bottom, your middle-sized ones above it, and then your lightest or your smallest ones at the top. This is a little repetitious from the previous slide. As you go up, the vertical is up and down, y-axis, horizontal side to side, x-axis. You're going to see coarse. I still have people thinking that coarse means rough. Coarse does not mean rough in geology. It means bigger. Will be at the bottom. Fine, which is smaller, will be at the top. Okay, so as time is going on, that black bar always comes in, but that's the only way I can. Anyway, so in the bottom picture, this is the stuff that's happening first. Larger particles, they're starting to compact. The medium-sized particles come in above that, and then the finest particles end up happening at the top. Almost picked off the thing. But that's, that is what is happening when, they don't see that online when these things happen. There's stuff on this page. That is what is occurring down here over time. So the waves are way up here at the top. This is the shore. This is the beach, whatever you want to call it. You grew up at. This is the shelf. This is the higher part. And this is where we, like if you're in the water, you're like way, way, way up here. This is deep, deep, deep ocean where the waves themselves don't go down here. They stay at the surface, but the current does go down along the bottom. This is an image of a rock that's showing that. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but you can see the larger pebbles, particles, whatever this was that was chewed up. Here's your mid-grain, and here are your fine grains. Then I just put a pencil or a pen next to it to show you like how much that has been squished down. Once again, you've got the larger rocks, the more coarse, your mid-grain, and then your fine grain up at the top. It's just to show you what they look like. Ripple marks. Ripple marks can be caused, well, you normally think of water, but also can be caused by wind. Depending on if there's a current or not, is going to determine how symmetrical the ripples are. Wind and water. I don't know if you've ever been to a desert or to the beach. Depending on how fast the wind is blowing, you see the ripples on the sand. It's not from water. Now, where the water is actually lapping against the shore, those ripples are from water. And depending on if there is a current or not, how fast is that moving is going to either distort, if there is a current, or not distort, if there's not a current. It's all that's on this one. It's nice picture. All right, so if they are caused by waves, like at the shore, beach, shore, I grew up in the Northeast, so we say shore. These are symmetrical. They may not be perfectly straight, but the distances between them should be almost, well, not necessarily identical. With nature, nothing's ever 100% identical. There's always going to be little deviations in it. But they're approximately the same distance apart from each other. They look similar to the ripples. If you drop a pebble in a still pool of water, the ripples are going to be the same distance away from each other. Unless they hit, something gets in their way. Like I said, there are always going to be some type of a small distortion. Okay, if there is a current, they are not symmetrical. Part of the ripple, part of the ridge is going to be higher than the other because there is motion, there's forward motion. Asymmetrical just means opposite. And you can see that down on this lower left picture, which is more of a delta type thing. Well, not the delta yet. The deltas have a lot larger space in between them, but you can see that there's errors, there's gaps, there's starts and there's stops. And this is, the crack is not that. The crack is just that the rock in this one, something happened. But you see it a lot better in that left picture. Prospect. You have an incline within the rock. And there's a very obvious angle, whether it be an angle up or an angle down. Compared to straight. Once again, horizontal is on the X plane, it's straight left and right. You're going to see this the most commonly in sandstone, which I've shown you multiple pictures. I do have some sandstone. I got both regular sandstone and quartz sandstone in here. The difference between the two, quartz is 90% quartz, still has sand. This is an image of CrossFit, okay? And you can see that you have an angle upwards to the right here. It's actually reversed. We got straight, slightly to the left, we got angled up again, and then we've got more straight. You can see, even though they're still in layers, so in this angled up part, there's still approximately the same distance between them. You can see them. Once again, sedimentary rocks have layers in them. It's one of the most common features of a sedimentary rock. This one is a little bit more straight. You see this in the desert a lot. So, wind-blown sand. So, coastal dunes, so the beach, and desert dunes. You will see this. It has to do with how fast the wind is blowing, in which direction the wind is blowing in, because that is what moves the particles. It can be done from water too, but it's much more noticeable with wind blowing sand. And yes, a desert once had water. That's why there's so much sand. The wind helps erode anything that was exposed. It's what's happening to the pyramids. It's what's happening to the Sphinx. They're slowly being worn away. There's not much we can do about it. So another, like I said, tons and tons and tons of pictures. So this crisscross pattern has to do with the direction the wind is blowing in. The direction that the wind is blowing, you're going to have a very, very, very slight gradual increase. I don't care if it's to the left or the right, north, south, east, west, it doesn't matter. You have a gradual, very slow incline in the direction of the wind, and then you have a sharp drop off on the other side of the wind. That's the typical pattern. It also, like I said, much more noticeable with wind than with water, but it does happen with water. I have not built any of your tectonic notes yet. That will be Thursday and Friday. We start talking about very, very generic what's happening underneath us, specifically in the ocean with those ridges and the vents and trenches. And so best seen with wind, but can also be seen with water. Mud cracks. They look like polygons. They're not ripples. They make these very distinct shapes, and it comes from very, and I stress, very fine grained sediment, smaller than sand. Silt, clay. Clay is finer than silt, which is why it sticks together so much. That sediment, that silt, that clay, that mud has to be exposed above the water to the air. It dries out, and then it cracks apart. I'm sure you've seen this before. When it's really, really, really dry and hot in the summer, have you ever seen your ground like get cracks in it here? I haven't lived here long enough to notice that happen. It used to happen where I live. Have you noticed that before? Mm-hmm. That's what's happening. And where I moved from, it was essentially not quite swamp, more marsh. And so we're used to a poop ton of rain. We're not used to hurricane rain all the time, but we're used to rain showers almost every single day. But when we would have extended dry periods, which was rare down there, but what happened, yeah, the ground would crack. Like I would worry that my dog's leg would go in there and she'd break her leg, kind of crack. So you see this in what are called tidal flats or tidal pools. That's another word that I've seen there. If you have a shallow pond or a lake on your property and you don't constantly fill it, if it completely dries out, you'll see it at the bottom of your pond. If there is a flood, like I have unfortunately experienced quite a few times, once that flood water goes away, after everything's been extremely super saturated, you get really huge cracks. I have been through my share of flooded property.
In my old house, we used to do like 3 cracks.
Big cracks. Like I said, worried that my dog was going to break for my little dog. Big dog. Oh, he's so stupid. He tore his back apart trying to run underneath our trailer to get after our cat. Huge dog is so dumb. He's so sweet. He's so pretty, but his eyes do this. He's the kind, like you look. If you've ever seen a dog where you look at him, you're like, yeah, there ain't anything going on in your head. Like, we call him Sid, because like literally the sloth from Ice Age, like his eyes do that. He's so sweet. He's just so dumb. It does rain in the desert, okay? And when it rains, it's normally a deluge, but it doesn't last very long. That's when the frogs decide to come out from their hibernation and have babies, and then you dig back down so that they don't desiccate or die. But that's you will see this in all different types of environments. Once again, you have water exposure, then whatever it was that was inundated, that was flooded, needs to then be exposed to dry circumstances for a decent amount of time, or you get big cracks. So there you go. There's a picture of a mud crack. So you have different shapes. It's not necessarily like a certain number of sides, okay, but you see very, very big cracks. And that's that polygon type shape. This one has what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That one only has 4. That one only has, well, really 3. It's more triangular in shape. But that's what they look like. There you go. Travertine. This is a part of the opener. Travertine is a specific type of formation. There's more than these two. Okay, but once again, a stalactite with the C comes from the ceiling. A stalagmite with the G comes from the ground. Yes, they can meet and they make a pillar. I'm not sure, or a column. I'm not sure what the proper term is. Here, let me Google it. I'm sure there's I've seen them where there's enough sediment has come out that has been crystallized out of the water droplets where they connect. Let me double check and see it, because I don't want to tell you the wrong phrase. Let's see. It's not going to let me. Okay, so what is it called when a stalactite? When they meet. A stalagmate or pillar or center column. I guess they all mean the same. I'm just going to call it a pillar. Stalagmate. Center. What the heck does center mean? I don't know what that means. Or I'm just going to call them a pillar. So they once again, what's happening is the and there's different, there we go. That's the image I was looking for. So this one in the middle, this is a stalact with a C type. Okay, this is a stalagmite. Now this one came from this one. Okay, so however long it took the water to come through all the ground that was above it, because we're in a cave, would be slowly dripping from the point of this one, and then where it lands, it starts to grow up. Because the drop keeps hitting in the same spot. So it's going to start depositing, and then that will work its way down on the sides, however much moisture was being dripped from the top. But if they meet, it's hard for me to have any that meet. There are some that are meeting back here in the back. It looks like this one is, but I can't tell because this guy's in the front. Now, Tuffa, I've seen these when I went to Yellowstone, the Mammoth region, which is actually where this left-hand picture was taken from. You have a continental spring, like geysers can come up out of them. Okay, it's fresh water, it's not salt water. These are not salt formations. But these things grow up out of these continental springs. And like I said, the one on the left, this is the Mammoth section, which is the northeast section. Yes, I believe is the northeast section of the park. We only spent one day there. And then this is also on the bottom right-hand side. This is also Tuffa. It grows up out of that fresh water. There's different calcium and the different carbonate and the different calcite things that crystallize out. So these are chemical formations. Not rock from non-rock. Okay, fossils. I'm not going to go into depth because we already did this. Plants or animals that are somehow preserved in rock. Okay, it could be the actual shell or bone that's been fossilized. Okay, it could be an imprint, a track, and then that fossilized and it preserved that dinosaur track. It could be a carbon imprint in shale. You can find carbon imprints in coal. It is rare. It is rare to find fossils in coal, but it can happen. It's much more common in limestone, that fossil-rich limestone, And it's more common in shale. Much more common in shale. This one on the left, dinosaur print, it's fossilized. As long as sediment doesn't, I need to check my thing. As long as sediment doesn't fall in there, let me freeze it, let me check and see what's going on. Does it then fossilize inside of it? Or not fossilize, lithify inside of it, then it should be okay. Was that online? Okay. Oh, well, I'll do that in a second when I go over if you're missing stuff, because some of you never took the dang test from the 11th. 16 of you did not. Let's see. And I sent out another email this morning and opened it back up, and you don't have a lot of time. I also sent out an email yesterday if you wanted to retest the test from right before the break. If you failed the test and you want to retest, you have to respond to that announcement in Canvas. Let me know that you want to retake it, because this afternoon, those people that said that they want to retest, I'm going to send that one out. It's the same pictures, it's the same info. They are not the same dang questions as the original test. They're not, but it's the same info. So if you do not respond to that by this afternoon, I would say by probably 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock is when I'm sending it out. So if you have not done it by then, I'm not going to open it back up for you. If you missed the original test from the 20th, you have until, let me look on Canvas because I don't want to lie to you. I want to say it's 4 o'clock today. Oh, that's the wrong Canvas. Hold on, bear with me just a second. We've got, of course, my computer's being so slow. All right, so the test from the 20th. And you have to go to the 20th for it. So the previous week's module. Yeah, I'm changing this to 4 o'clock so that I can open up the other one. You can't retest unless you've done the original test. So that would be on my list that I'm seeing. Is there anybody in here? Gosh, there's so many. I'm not seeing. I'm not seeing anybody that's jumping out on me, but you would have gotten an email from me if that applied to you. Okay, let me get back to this. All right, depositional environments. Oh, that one on the right. These are, oh, freeze it. Go backwards one. The one on the right, the one on the left is a trace fossil. The one on the right, this is in limestone. Right? Yes.
I'm never going to not the.
No, it's not an email. In the announcements in Canvas. If you want to retest, it's in my Canvas. I guess you would have gotten a notification from Canvas itself. I sent it out yesterday at 11:10. And I have had a few people that have said that they do want to redo it. Yeah, just respond to it. Say, yes, I want to do the retest. Because I need to know who, I'm not going to, and then I have to double check and make sure you didn't pass it. So, yes. Anyways, this over here is part of a trilobite. Okay, this is part of a brachiopod. This is an indention that was left behind. I don't see any ammonites in that one, but that is a fossil right there of a brachiopod. Now remember, those Cambrian fossils, or the Precambrian fossils, those were all marine organisms. They were not on land. They were down in the water, in the oceans. So we talked about depositional environments yesterday. They have to do something with water. Could be the bottom of the ocean, could be in a river, could be in a lake, beach. But we have 3 major regions that those fall into. Okay, they're either continental, so The beginning of that would be a glacier up in the mountains, then they melt, then they bring it down through rivers. And then before they hit the ocean, which is a transitional, we're in between, very shallow marine. Before that, they're continental. The transition between land and ocean is considered shallow marine. And then you've got deep ocean, which is past the continental shelf. You've got three major zones where you can have deposition occur. And then I have a picture that sort of shows that. Yeah, I guess if you want me to, I can send it to you guys, but. And I'm not gonna make you learn all of the different phrases of the different parts yet. When we do Earth's changing surface, I wanna do tectonics first. And then we'll get into how the surface of our crust, how it keeps changing. The transitions from one zone to another. It's probably going to take us a couple weeks after Christmas. And then we'll get into the history of life and evolution. We'll talk about that. Part of that is tectonics, part of that is the supercontinents and then their breakup. The Pangea caused a mass extinction. You'd think it would be the other way around, but it did. It caused a mass extinction and then we had a rebirth of life again, which is what allowed dinosaurs to essentially move over. Well, pre-dinosaurs. Things like the Dimetrodon, with the big sail on its back, well, technically it was not a dinosaur. It was before the big explosion, the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous was before that. Basically, yes. When things were starting to learn to walk on legs, it looks like it, you know what I'm talking about, big sail, like a place that technically was not a dinosaur, it was not in the right time frame. It was the precursor to it. I definitely have to brush up on my dinosaurs. So this is showing you, because I need to go back for anybody. All right, so continental, like I said, you're basically starting with the glaciers, and it's working its way down. You can have lakes, rivers. Now, where you're starting to meet the ocean, this is your transitional. So we have tidal flats, deltas, barrier reefs, that kind of thing. And then once you fall off this continental shelf, then we have a bunch of other parts, and this is your deep marine. Now, you do not need to know these phrases yet. We will come back and we will do those. We will do those after the Christmas break. Right, so tectonic, just as a little bit of an intro, like a tiny bit of an intro. The way that the plates have moved, and then the analysis of specifically the sedimentary rocks, I just needed to change that to SRs, but that's what lets us know basically what happened before, what's present. Is there granite present? Is there limestone present? Is there shale present? Where did it come from? Now, we're not going to know like perfect, but we know at one point in time, South America and Africa, they did it. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to take a look at the shape of our current continents and see where the heck they came from. But what is there, the actual consistency of the current rock lets us know where it came from. Do they match on opposite sides of the ocean? If they do, then there's a really good chance that they came from being next to each other. All right, now I'm going to freeze this. Okay, so I need to do my normal housekeeping and let people know if they're missing stuff. I need to pause the recording though, because I don't like putting that on my YouTube. That's not. And hold on online because I need to